Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) said it has uncovered a hotel in Abuja where drugs are sold and young ladies camped for commercial sex. The agency also said at least 4 persons, including 3 ladies and a man, were arrested when the drug joint Jat suit located at 30 Lobito Crescent, Wuse 2, was raided, and some quality of rohypnol and paraphernalia for smoking crack cocaine were recovered on Wednesday, 22nd of September 2021. The Director, Media and Advocacy for NDLEA, Femi Babafemi, joins us in the studio, and he takes us through some of the recent feats of the NDLEA as far as the fight against drug abuse is concerned. Good morning. It's good to have you.
Thank you, Ayuba. Thank you for having me.
Interestingly, drug peddlers, I would say merchants, are now evolving in some ways, coming up with new strategies, new ways, of pushing their drugs and all of that. What are the recent discoveries?
Yeah,
maybe beginning with the last story we saw.
Yeah, absolutely. You have this. People who are so disingenuous, so desperate, and so in their desperation, they are not ready to quit so easily. So they will still want to try some other means to see how they can apply their trade. But it's very unfortunate for them that anywhere they turn, they have NDLA to contend with, and that's the result of what you are seeing. Whether they go online, they have our agents there monitoring them, following them up. Whether they go inside in the forest, that's even the one of the most recent things happening. Huge recoveries from the forest, deep inside forest. I'm talking of forest that you have to trek on foot for 3, 4, 5 hours to get in there. So we have this to do in some very difficult terrain. I can remember the last 2 weeks I may have to go on a tractor to be able, because the forest was so muddy and marshy, so they couldn't even go on foot, so they had to go on a tractor. It's a very difficult one. But then we have officers and men that are very determined, that believe very strongly and very well in the leadership of the agency, and that's why you're having quite a lot of results. Honestly, we're mopping up every bit of gram we find in any part of the country, and the one you refer to, the Jat suits in Lobito, that's one of the latest discoveries, where you have a bag created within a residential area. Lobito is a highbrow residential area where you even have foreign embassies and missions. They are neighbors to foreign embassies and missions in that place, and unfortunately, you have some elements who converted the premises to some other things where they sell drugs, and you have girls camped in rooms in 2, in 3, in 4, in 5 for some elements, usually maybe the big in the society, come and have sex with them there. That is, and you see, these things are not done with clear minds, and that's why they have to create a drug joint there for them, for both the young girls and their customers. So they have to first of all get high on drugs, crack cocaine, that is the peak of it, and rohypnol. These are very strong opioids that alter the mind of the individuals, gives you energy that you can never imagine, make you want to do the impossible. And so you see, when you see people dying during sex romp and what have you, these are all the things that lead to that. And but then the good thing is, wherever they turn, they are always having us to contend with, and that's exactly why we're taking that matter very seriously. That's why we had to take the media on a tour of that facility so that we can let the public know again what these people are up to, and also send a very strong signal, warning to others who, especially landlords and landladies, who may want to yield their premises for such things. Sometimes they may not be the actual perpetrators, but they let out their premises. So if you are a landlord or a landlady, you should also be interested in what your property is being used to do, so that when it gets to the point of prosecuting the culprits, your property would not be you will not be at the risk of losing your property, because one of the things we are doing at the moment is to ensure that the vessels, that is the premises or the vehicles or whatever means are used for this illicit trade, we attach them to the case for forfeiture to the federal government, and that's what we are pursuing, and that's why we're also pursuing the assets of the individuals, the culprits in this case. We go after their assets, we go after their bank accounts to make sure that the incentives, because the whole essence of this illicit criminal trade is the money they are getting from it. So we make sure that we deny them the benefits of enjoying the wealth made from that illicit trade.
Okay, now of interest was a seizure the NDLEA made earlier this month of amphetamine worth 6 billion, where we saw that concealed in rotor reels. Now, how did that whole raid come about?
Yeah, that's also one of the things we discovered recently. You can just imagine that somebody will go as far as the Middle East to build machines. You call them, I think, sanders. They are used for tiling or something like that in building construction. And what they did, it's unimaginable. Those machines were deliberately built for the purpose of hiding drugs inside the rotors, because and these things were not just they were well built, and inside steel, iron. And unfortunately for them, our operation is intelligence based. We work across with other partners all over the world. So as at March this year, as early as March this year, we got intelligence about that particular consignment. Even it had to pass through about 3-4 countries. Even when it was transloaded to another ship, we had intelligence that has been, just to hide the source where it was coming from, so that it will not raise an alert. But then, unfortunately, we kept track, and it's a very diligent process. You have to be patient and very diligent, and that was exactly what we did in that case. And when the consignment actually came, it became controversial because there were arguments that, oh no, these are just equipment, machines, there can never be drugs there, blah 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 blah, all those things. But we're very 100% sure that there were drugs in there, and ultimately the whole thing was resolved when we had to bring in our own professional expertise into the scene, because we work with other stakeholders at the port, and that was the dogs, the sniffer dogs. Okay. The sniffer dogs resolved the whole thing. So we have to offload the machines, put them on the ground, get them, and we brought in about 8 sniffer dogs to investigate the machines, and at the end of the day, they were able to pinpoint the rotors as the parts of the equipment, the machines harboring or housing these drugs, and That was how, you see, the curious thing there is that particular drug, Captagon, is what they call is a drug controlled by ISIS. ISIS, this jihadis fighting in Afghanistan and in parts of the Middle East, and so coming from that, it was a deliberate supply. Basically, what they do with it is either they supply their fighters, insurgents, to go on for days, not sleeping, fight on, not getting tired, not sleeping. They can get awake and be strong for days. One, it's probably either to fuel the insurgency in the country, or two, the other thing they use it for is because it's very expensive. It's very expensive. A pill costs as much as $25 a pill of that thing. And so another thing is for them to sell this and have a way of channeling it to the insurgents to fund their purchase of arms and ammunition. But then we thank God that we did not allow that to come into the Nigerian soil.
So what are some of the arrests that have been made in regards to this discovery, aside seizing these drugs? Are there certain persons that have been arrested?
Definitely, for any seizure, there must be at least 1 or 2 arrests connected. But most times, you see, even when we make some seizures, we don't come out immediately to talk about them, because at that point we're still building a case, trying to, if we, for instance, we arrest somebody who probably we caught with the drug. For instance, in the case of the seizure in Apapa, the Captagon, the first arrest was the agent, the person that came, because at the point there were negotiations on how to bribe our officials, but because we already knew, something we've been working on since March, so we had to play along to see how we can use that. Don't forget, that was how we were able to get one of the bearers that came all the way from Brazil, the man that sent heavy cocaine from Brazil. Our men, that's at the Lagos airport recently, some weeks ago. So in the case of this one, we had to first of all get the point man, the person that came forward. These people are not, they are not, they don't come out easily. They push quite a number of agents into the scene.
It's a whole chain.
I'm telling you, it's a chain. Even as many as 4, 5, 6 members of that chain may not even know who the real kingpin is. You see, because A is working with B, B is working with C. Along that chain, they don't even know who the real person pulling the strings is. So it's that complex, but then that's why we try to build up to arrest everybody in that chain until we're able to build a case to the big kingpin, to the baron. So that's how it works, and we're still on that case, definitely.
All right, so we should expect maybe some kind of naming of the suspects when eventually arrested?
Definitely. It's not, there are not things that can be hidden, because when we arrest, immediately we take them to court, we charge them to court, and when they get to the court, then becomes public, even before it gets to the point, if we sure, because we like to let the public know, so that the public can be educated, we can create the awareness the more, and then we can also send the signal, the warning to those behind these things that can no longer be business as usual.
So take us through, what are some of the new developments in terms of equipment and all of that, to enable you contend with some of these recent moves by drug merchants and all of that? Yeah,
unfortunately, some of these people believe they probably have some fake assurances from some quarters that One, they rely on what they call local immunity, juju, that they can never, these things can never be found on them, blah blah blah. They have that fake belief. Maybe somebody somewhere it's giving them that assurance. Some also give them the assurance that, okay, don't worry, we'll bribe the officials, So they have that fake confidence, and unfortunately, the man at the helm of affairs in NDLA is on top of the job 24/7. He's somebody that leads operations, controls all the buttons, presses all the buttons, and keeps a tap on everybody. So you cannot afford to fail on a particular assignment. The moment an intelligence comes, he knows who he assigns it to, and he follows up until there is a result. Quite fantastic officers and men of the agency, I can tell you. Then in addition, you also have, like I told you, we work on intelligence, whether within or from outside the country. We're working with quite a lot of partners from outside the country, and so we give them intelligence, they share intelligence with us. So, and together, that is why these things appear to be working well.
Quite a lot of discoveries were made, in the recent past. Can you give us, in terms of the value of the seizures that have been made, maybe a kind of a brief of?
Yeah, let me quickly run through that. Between January and August, let me just put at August because we have not compiled September, and there are quite a lot of arrests and seizures in September. But between January and August, we've made over 8,634 arrests, and out of that, about more than 5,000 were charged to court, out of which over 1,630 convicted and serving jail terms at the moment, while over 3,000 others are still currently facing charges in the courts. Then drugs seized so far, they were over 2.7 million kilograms. That is huge. And then I wish you saw what was recovered from a forest in Edo State yesterday. That was huge. That's almost what we recovered in the forest in Edo yesterday, Sunday, right? Yeah, 2,937 kilograms of cannabis ready to be transported to other parts of the country. These things are things we use like 5-6 trucks to carry, loaded to the brim.
How is the NDLA able to navigate some of this forest? And, do you think that there is need, looking at the whole issue that we're grappling with insecurity and all of that, banditry and kidnapping and the likes, and many experts have said these forests are now becoming like a safe haven for these criminals.
Yeah.
Should we be paying more attention to the forest now?
Yeah. Let me quickly land on the statistics. I've spoken up to the people facing charges at the moment. Now we have drugs and cash, because like I told you, we don't just go after the suspects, the drugs, we also go after their assets. So drugs and cash seized so far within that 8 months, it's over 100 billion naira. And again, those we have rehabilitated, because our job is not just all about punitive measures. We also do counseling, rehabilitation, and those that have been counseled, rehabilitated, and reintegrated back to the society within this period, there are over 4,000, which gives a fair balance between our drug demand reduction efforts and drug supply reduction activities. Now coming to the issue of the forest, honestly, because when the drug we produce more here, that is cannabis sativa, they are usually produced in the forest. They are usually planted, cultivated and packaged. These people build heavy warehouses deep in the forest, where when they harvest these things, they store them there, then looking for how to distribute them across the country. And so we also had to, don't forget that on June 26th this year, that is during the launch of War Against Drug Abuse, WADA, by President Buhari at the villa. He did mandate the agency to go into all the forest and make sure that every bit of drugs gotten there, we seize them and destroy them. And that's exactly the mandate, the order that the agency is going after. Even though before then we have been doing this, but I can tell you that the tempo had really gotten up, and we're going far into the forest, and we're acting on intelligence. We're using technology. So they are combined in this in this particular case, because we need intelligence. We also need to deploy technology to get quite a number of geographical equations. Figures settled before we move in, so that we're sure of the accurate location of where we are going to, and that had never failed us. And that's why we're making huge recoveries, because the whole essence, even sometimes, let me also tell you some of the things we do. Sometimes even when we discover a cannabis farm early enough, we pretend we don't know they are there. Do you know why? Because we know they invest heavily in those things, so we allow them to pour in their investment till they are harvesting. That's when it hurts much. Do you understand?
Wow.
That's the point. We now move and make sure we destroy, because you see, that way we're weakening their financial strength, their financial muscle. We're cutting it down, because they would have invested over the months nurturing the plantation, and at the point they think they now want to reap from the criminal trade, then we strike.
Okay. Now let me take you back to the issue of the recent Captagon seizure the NDLEA made. Now, according to reports, it is the first of its kind in Africa.
In Africa.
Doesn't this send a kind of red, signal for the country?
Yeah, that's exactly what, and that was exactly why the chairman had to go to Lagos to address the country through the media, showing these things and warning on the implications of this thing. But I mean, our joy is we were able to intercept that. So what it shows is the desperation of the people behind some of these security challenges we're having across the country, to go through all means to fund and to make sure that this thing does not come to an end so easily, because drug is the propeller, is what propels these young men fighting in the forest. I mean, because an ordinary mind, a sane person will not just go and live. I'm not sure you can stay in the forest for one day and you won't be comfortable. Same thing with Ayuba. You can't. So it takes somebody who is and we've had quite this claim is evidence based, from the operations of our forces in those areas, when after they would have cleared the locations of the terrorists, they discover remnants of drugs littered all over the place, and when some of them are arrested, put in custody, after 2-3 days, they start showing withdrawal syndrome, because when they don't have this thing, because they depend on this thing, they are dependent. So when they don't have it, after some 1-2 days, they become agitated. And in some interactions with them, the thing they really need most, not even the arms, not the ammunition, not food, but drug. Because it is drugs that give them this false feeling that they can do the impossible. And that's why they go on for this fighting. Then, again, in our interaction with some of the victims, or those that have been in their camps, we have also seen that these people cannot stay without popping pills or snorting something, smoking cannabis almost every hour. That is their life. So it means that they cannot act with their normal senses. They need to be propelled, fueled by drugs. And that's the strong nexus between drug abuse and the insecurity, the security challenges we have across the country.
All right. Now, in the process, as part of the role of the NDLA for the rehabilitation of people who were once drug addicts and all of that, we are aware of the now repentant bandits. I mean, Boko Haram fighters, not bandits per se. Some of them that have surrendered are back, and we are aware of this government's program of reintegrating them back to the society, rehabilitating them, and all of that. Is the NDLA playing any role in that?
Well, you see, the NDLA's our responsibility, I would say they are on two major planks. One, the drug supply reduction. Drug supply reduction, that is the one that is so visible and people see or hear of every day. That is the arrest, the seizures, the raids, the prosecution, and what have you. That is the main plank of the agency's work. But the second plank, that is why we are the lead agency in that, drug supply reduction. Now, on the drug demand reduction, we work along with other stakeholders. NDLA is not the only one involved there. You have quite a number of other stakeholders, other ministries, departments, and agencies of government that are also involved, even including private organizations who are also stakeholders. So we work with others. So in this particular case, what we do is we are the first point of contact with a drug addict. You see, when they come, when we assess them, at that point we determine the kind of help they need. Because these people, like we say, the problem is it's an ailment, just like any other ailment, just like your malaria fever, like your hypertension, like your diabetes that you have to live and manage. So this thing is also an ailment that needs to be treated. So when we sit there, we assess them. At that point, we determine, okay, this person may have to be referred to a medical facility for proper treatment. And if it's the one still at the early stages where we can still either treat, counsel, and treat as outpatient or inpatient, depending on which of our facilities, then we attend to them. But then let me also warn that nothing can be better than prevention.
Right.
It's better you don't go into it, because researches have shown that 80% of people that are treated relapse. What it then means is that for those who are in there, we all have to come together, a whole society approach. We all have to come together to make sure that we do everything possible to get them out. And for those that are out, we have to do everything possible. We have to work with them and other stakeholders to make sure that they don't relapse. And for those that have not even started taking drugs, they are the luckiest. And that is why we're shouting, we are warning, don't go there. If you go there, it's a journey that you may never recover from. I tell you, in this Abuja today, to treat addiction, it's not what an ordinary man like you and I can afford. Because per month, in some facilities in Abuja, it costs, the minimum you probably pay monthly is ₦1 million. Yeah.
Okay.
So to treat addiction, ₦1 million a month. So how many people can afford that? So that is why we're warning, if you are not yet there, whatever the temptations may be, don't go there. Because when you get hooked there, what it will cost your family, your friends, your relations to get you out, it's not a walk in the park.
Okay. So maybe you should also tell us some of the international collaborations that the NDLA has gotten into, to be able to fight this drug merchants from the international angle.
Awesome, awesome. I'll tell you, between January and now, honestly, you can see the visuals, the reports are there. As soon as General Mara came in January, you see quite a number of international partners just started trooping back to the agency for partnership, for this, for that. And I'm telling you honestly, it's been a major source of inspiration to the officers and men and the agency itself. You see, when you are working with partners out there who are ready to do anything and everything to support you. Let's take for instance the 2 million euro project being handled by the Germans for the NDLA in Lagos. That's the dog school. You see, where we have the canine unit, where we have the dogs developed and trained. What they are trying to create here is, beyond having dogs that will work for the agency, is also a training ground for dogs from across West Africa and Africa, and even for other agencies that may want to get that, because when we talk of a 2 million euro facility, that is huge. So that is a huge support for the agency, and these people are giving us more dogs, sniffer dogs, to work with. Beyond that, we having support from the US government, from the British, that's the UK government, from the French government, from like I mentioned, Germans, from Italy, quite across the world. Honestly, I'll tell you.
Right.
And even we are also building partnerships also across Africa. I remember recently we were in Gambia to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Drug Law Enforcement Agency of the Gambia, DLAC. So we're building networks. We're not just also working with our partners in Europe and America. We're also building partnership in Africa, because what we also discovered recently is that because the heat is much in Nigeria at our seaports and airports, these people are now diverting to other African countries, at least 2 major ones. I wouldn't want to mention their names so that it doesn't appear, but then I'm sure they are already aware of the trend. You see, the issue is when they can't get into Nigeria easily, then they'll have to look for other places to use as a transit.
All right. We still have in the studio the spokesman of the NDLEA talking about Femi Babafemi. Now, you heard him, while he was, he is so confident that virtually all the bandits are addicts of drugs and all of that.
Absolutely.
What are the discoveries that you've been made, or some of the observations you made in recent arrest of some of the suspected bandits, as far as, this use of drug among them? Absolutely.
Thank God this is not just coming from the NDLA law. This is also coming from somebody, an academic that has done researches in that field. But then, like I was saying before, I said that this is evidence-based. It's an evidence-based fact, and it's something we're very certain and very sure of, given the fact that when our armed forces, who are in the forefront of the battle against these people, when they anytime they clear an area of operation where these people are, at the end of the day, they find remnants of drugs littered all over the place, meaning that they have been living on those drugs. 2, also, anytime some of these people are arrested and taken into custody, that is the bandits, after some 2-3 days, when they cannot pop the pills or smoke, then they start showing withdrawal syndrome. That is getting agitated and shaking, vibrating, because they think that they were already on some substances that had already altered the way they live, the way they behave. So when they mix this for 2-3 days, they start showing some signs that they need this thing to get back to their normal.
Okay.
Remember, their normal is in quotes. Yeah.
Now, many people are frightened of the idea of repatriating these people back into society. From your interactions with them, have you noticed any form of remorse, from these people?
Well, let me tell you, when we talk of drug addiction, we don't want to criminalize everybody, because it's not every addict that is a criminal. We have to get that fact very right, and that is why when we assess an individual, we know whether that person is it's a criminal mind that needs to face trial, or somebody that genuinely needs help, that needs to be treated. And for those that need treatment, that need to be treated, not the criminals, we take them through a lot of therapies, a lot of things to get. You see, let me give you an instance. Recently, a young man contacted me through the social media, my inbox, and when he told me his story, I felt very bad. You see, this is a young man who started well in life, got into the uni, now, but because of drugs, he told me that everything he had attained in life had all crashed. His life is in ruins. I'm using his exact words, because when somebody is using those words to describe himself, I felt. And when I checked his profile, I saw somebody really in bad shape. Has become a shadow of himself, of his old self. And he said he cannot but take tramadol 2-3 times a day, that he really desire to get out of it, but he finds it difficult, so he needs help. Is there anything I could do for him? I got touched, and I had to link him up with our facility close to where his location, to where he is. And I do hope today he'll be better for it. So there are quite a number of them that are genuinely remorseful. Those are the people that the category of those that I said really need help. And that's why we're saying, see, this thing, we need a whole society approach to tackle it. We need everybody on board. It's not just about the NDLA or the government, it's about all of us. It's our collective, because this problem actually starts from the smallest unit of the society, which is the family.
Right.
Now, talking about the factors responsible for this thing, for me, family is the number one, because that's where the problem starts from. You see, they're quite at the family unit. You see, some families, you have they are broken, where the parents are no longer together, and the children are usually the victims.
Right.
Their children are usually the victims in this case. You want to go?
All right. Well, quite a lot there we've been looking at as far as the fight against drug abuse. And well, at this point, we have to draw the curtain. We've come to the end of this discussion. On the program today, we've been speaking with the spokesman of the Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Femi Babafemi. The NDLEA in recent times have made quite a lot of seizures, and we give them kudos for that.
Thank you, Ayuba.
I hope to have you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Sure.